numbers that multiply to give me -4 and add to give me -3. What are they? -1 and 1. Alright, now, what we need to remember is this right here is still equal to 0. Right? Still equal to 0. So, what property do we use now once we've got it factored to set them equal to 0? 0 what? Product property. Yes, 0 product property. We take both of our two factors, set them equal to 0. So, right here we should say h minus 4. H minus 4 equals 0. Add 4 to both sides. So h equals 4. And then h plus 1 equals 0. Subtract 1. So h equals -1. So here are two answers, 4 and -1.
So I got it correct either way.
Yes.
Okay.
But when you use the 0 product property,
Okay.
take your factors and set them equal to 0. Alright, number 2. Alright, number 2 says we need two numbers that multiply to give me -15 and add to give me -2. Alright? -5 and 3, pay attention. Both of those add or multiply to give me -15 and add to give me -2. So once I get here, I use the 0 product property. Y minus 5 equals 0. So add 5. Y equals 5. Y plus 3 equals 0. Subtract 3. Y equals -3. Alright, those are your two answers. Okay, with number 3, the first thing I need to do is move this 27 over and set this equal to 0. So we would have x squared plus 6x minus 27 equals 0. Alright? We're going to need two numbers that multiply to give me -27 and add to give me 6. Okay? So we've got 9 and -3. So when I factor this, we get x plus 9, x minus 3. Alright? 0 product property. We have x plus 9 equals 0. Subtract 9. X equals -9. X minus 3 equals 0. So add 3. So x equals 3. Alright, here's our two answers. -9 and 3. Alright, today we're going to watch two short videos before we get started. Alright, today, why are you sitting on the floor? Alright, what we're going to do, everything that we write, every problem that goes on the board on these videos goes on your paper. Alright, this is called factoring by grouping. Alright, this is how we factor when the leading coefficient is not 1 and you can't factor it out even. Okay? Because if I get a leading coefficient, if I get a quadratic where my leading coefficient is not 1, the first thing I try to do is factor it out to see if I get whole numbers for my other two terms, right? Alright, this is how we factor these problems when you can't factor it out and get whole numbers for your other two terms. Alright, it's called factor by grouping. Alright? So you need your piece of paper out, you need your pencil, your pen, whatever it is that you use. What's in front of? Shh.
How far are your pins from?
No.
Shh. Alright, we're trying to factor this. We've got 2x squared plus 5x plus 3. Okay, what's the leading coefficient? Just 2. The leading coefficient is just 2, right? What is the coefficient on our x squared? This is a quadratic. So our largest exponent is x squared. Alright, so our leading coefficient is 2. The first thing I try to do is, can I factor out 2 and get even terms for my next two terms? No, I can't do it. So, what we have to do is we have to factor by grouping. I've got to take this 5 and make it 2 terms. Now, how do I do that? I take my leading coefficient, multiply it by my constant. What's 2 times 3? So I've got to have 2 terms that multiply to give me 6. And those same 2 terms that add to still give me my middle term, which is 5. What are my 2 terms?
1 and 6. 1 and 6. 1 and 6. Negative 1 and 6.
They're both positive.
Oh, no way.
2 and 6 again.
What about 2 and 3?
You know what?
2 and 3.
You read my mind.
2 and 3. Alright? These 2 terms, 2 and 3. If I multiply 2 and 3, they give me 6. If I add 2 and 3, they give me 5. Now, what do I do with these 2 terms? I separate this middle term up. This one stays the same, 2x squared. I separate these middle 2 terms up to equal 5x. Alright? Plus 2x plus 3x plus 3. I just separated this up. Alright? I took my middle term of 5x and I separated it to 2x and 3x. Alright? Why did I do that? Alright? Because now I can group my 2 terms. Alright, I'm going to group these first 2, and then I'm going to group these second 2. Alright? If you look at these 2 terms, what do they have in common? And 2x, right? They both have a 2x in common. So if I factor out a 2x, 2x comes out front. 2x squared divided by 2x is just x, right? The 2's cancel. X squared cancels that x. We're left with x. Alright? 2x divided by 2x is what? 1. 2x is canceled. Plus 1. What do these 2 terms have in common? 3. Factor out of 3. Positive 3. 3x divided by 3 is what? Just x, right? 3 divided by 3 is what?
Wait, why did you factor out?
Because that's the greatest common factor of 3 is. What do they both have? An x plus 1, right? They both have the binomial x plus 1 out of both of these 2 terms. Correct? So if I factor out an x plus 1 from both of these terms, what comes to the front? What I'm factoring out, right? So the x plus 1. What is 2x times x plus 1 divided by x plus 1? What cancels? Your x plus 1 terms. What's left? 2x. What cancels over here? X plus 1, your x plus 1, right? What's left?
3.
There's your 2 factors. X plus 1, 2x plus 3. Yep.
You lost halfway.
Alright, look at this one. Alright. What's the leading coefficient? 5 squared. Just 5. The leading coefficient is just 5. Can I factor a 5 out and get whole number terms? No, I cannot. Don't factor evenly, so we're going to leave it. So we have to factor by group. Alright? My 2 terms have to add up. The only thing I'm trying to do is take this term and split it into 2 terms. Alright? These 2 terms, they'll have to multiply to give me what? Why 30? Your leading coefficient times your constant is 30. And they have to add to give me what?
13.
Negative 13. 2 terms. Multiply to give me 30, add to give me negative
Negative
13.
10, negative 30.
Negative 10, negative 30. Alright, so these first two terms are going to stay the same. 5x squared and plus 6. So we've got 5x squared and then a plus 6 over here. The middle two terms is going to go from having 1 to 2 terms, where I can group them with each, the leading coefficient and with the constant. Does it matter in which order you put them in? Yeah, it's going to matter. Why? Because what are we trying to do? We're trying to group these two to where we have common factors in both of them. Which one do you think we're going to group with 5x squared, negative 10 or negative 3? Negative 10, because they're going to have common factors. So we're going to have negative 10x here. So what are we going to group with 6? A negative 3x. Alright? When we do that, we can group the 5x squared and the negative 10x and the negative 3x and the 6, right? We can group those together now. Okay? Once I have them grouped, we can find the common factors out of both sets. What's the common factor here? They both have a 5. They both also have what? An x. Alright? They both have a 5x. So when I factor out 5x, 5x comes to the front. 5x squared divided by 5x. Your 5's cancel. That squared cancels that x, and you're left with x. 10x divided by 5x, where your x's go ahead and cancel. 10 divided by 5 is what? 2. You have a negative 3, right? What about over here? A negative 3. Good.
Okay, so what do you drop down for? This is where I got confused.
Factoring out this negative 3.
Okay,
So negative 3 goes out front.
you do it. Okay.
Alright? Negative 3x divided by negative 3 is what? Negative 3's cancel, you're left with x. What's 6 divided by negative 3?
Negative 2.
Now, we've got 2 terms. Alright, it looks like we have a lot of terms, but we only have 2. These 2 are multiplied together, and these 2 are multiplied together. What do they both have in common? An x minus 2. So I'm going to factor out that x minus 2. When you factor it out, what happens to it? It comes where? To the front, right? So we got x minus 2 comes to the front. Well, 5x times x minus 2, these x minus 2's cancel out. What are we left with? 5x. Alright? Negative 3 times x minus 2 divided by x minus 2. Your x minus 2's cancel out. What are you left with? There's your 2 factors. Want to try one on your own?